Charles Francis Rumbaugh. Charles Francis Rumbaugh was only 17 years old when a single night in 1975 changed everything. Growing up in Amarillo, Texas, Rumbaugh's life had been marked by struggles common to many young men on the margins. But on that fateful night, during a robbery at a local jewelry store, he crossed a line from which there was no return. In the chaos, Rumbaugh shot and killed the store's owner, a man simply trying to earn a living. The violent act sent shockwaves through the community and marked Rumbaugh as one of the youngest individuals to face the ultimate punishment under Texas law. Despite being barely out of adolescence, Rumbaugh was sentenced to death. Over the next decade, he would remain locked in the confines of the notorious Huntsville unit, known as the Walls Unit, a place where many condemned inmates meet their fate. His time on death row was reportedly spent grappling with the enormity of his crime, and with age, he grew more reflective about the path that led him there. On September 11, 1985, at just 28 years old, Rumbaugh was executed by lethal injection. His last meal was austere: one flour tortilla and a glass of water. Before the final curtain fell, he spoke words that hinted at a yearning for peace, forgiveness, and reconciliation. DJ, Lori, Dr. Wheat, about all I can say is goodbye. And for all the rest of you, although you don't forgive me for my transgressions, I forgive yours against me. I am ready to begin my journey, and that's all I have to say. His execution became part of a larger, contentious national conversation about the morality and legality of executing juveniles, a debate that continues to this day. James Terry Roach. James Terry Roach was just 17 years old when he was accused and convicted of a crime that horrified South Carolina in 1983. He was found guilty of abducting and murdering 2 children, a crime so brutal that it sent waves of fear and anger throughout the community. Roach's young age, however, complicated the case. Many questioned whether someone so young fully understood the consequences of his actions, or deserved the harshest possible penalty. His time on death row was a harrowing journey, filled with legal battles and appeals focused on his youth and mental state. Advocates argued against executing such a young offender, but the courts remained resolute. On January 10, 1986, at the Broad River Correctional Institution, Roach faced death by electrocution. At 25 years old, his final moments remain cloaked in silence. There are no public records of his last meal or final words, a stark reminder of the anonymity that often envelops those who face execution. Roach's case became emblematic of the growing controversy over juvenile executions, contributing to the eventual abolishment of the practice in many states. Dalton Prejean. Dalton Prejean's story is one of tragedy, remorse, and the relentless finality of justice. Born into a world marked by hardship, Prejean was only 17 when he fatally shot a police officer responding to a robbery in Louisiana in 1973. His crime was swift and violent, and the community's response was equally swift. He was sentenced to death. During his years on death row at the Louisiana State Penitentiary, known as Angola, Prejean reportedly underwent a profound personal transformation. From a troubled youth, he became a man who sought forgiveness and peace. Activists used his case to highlight the moral complexities of executing juvenile offenders, sparking broader debate nationwide. On September 12, 1990, Prejean was executed by electrocution. At 34 years old, his youth was a distant memory. Though his last meal remains undocumented, his final words conveyed gratitude and acceptance. "I want to thank my family for standing by me. I am ready to go." His death highlighted the stark divide in American society between justice and mercy, especially concerning young offenders. Johnny Frank Garrett. Johnny Frank Garrett's case remains one of the most disputed juvenile executions in American history. At 17, Garrett was convicted of murdering Sister Tadia Benz, a nun, in Texas in 1981. From the outset, questions arose about the evidence used to convict him and the fairness of his trial. Many believed Garrett was innocent, or that he did not receive adequate legal representation. Despite mounting public concern and multiple appeals, the state proceeded with his execution. On February 11, 1992, Garrett was put to death by lethal injection at the Huntsville unit in Texas. He was just 27 years old. His last meal was a simple one: a cheeseburger, fries, chocolate cake, and milk. His final words were calm, devoid of bitterness. "I hold no ill will towards anyone. I'm ready to go." Garrett's death sparked protests and fueled a movement demanding justice reform, especially for juveniles facing capital punishment. His story has been retold in documentaries and books, cementing his place in the debate over wrongful convictions. Ruben Montoya Cantu. Ruben Montoya Cantu was sentenced to death at 17 for a 1985 murder in Texas, a case that would later become one of the most controversial juvenile executions in the nation's history. Years after his execution, evidence emerged suggesting that Cantu may have been innocent, as another man allegedly confessed to the crime. Despite these doubts, the state of Texas carried out the execution by lethal injection on March 24, 1993, at the Huntsville unit. He was 25 years old. His last meal was 2 cheeseburgers, French fries, and a soft drink. His final words were brief but heartfelt. "I love my family. I'm ready to meet God." Cantu's case became a rallying cry for advocates fighting wrongful convictions in juvenile executions, illustrating the irreversible consequences when the justice system errs. Sean Richard Sellers. Sean Richard Sellers was just 16 when he shocked Oklahoma by murdering 3 people in 1985. His troubled childhood, mental illness, and reported involvement in Satanism cast a shadow over his trial and sentence. The brutal nature of his crimes left many without sympathy, but his youth raised profound ethical questions. Sellers was executed by lethal injection on February 4, 1999, at the Oklahoma State Penitentiary. At 31, his life ended far too early. His last meal was a large spread: fried chicken, fried okra, French fries, sweet potatoes, peas, banana pudding, peach cobbler, and Dr. Pepper. In his final words, Sellers expressed hope for healing and forgiveness. "I hope that the families of the victims find peace, and that I am forgiven." His execution was one of the last juvenile death penalties carried out, before the Supreme Court ruled such sentences unconstitutional for offenders under 18. Douglas Christopher Thomas. Douglas Christopher Thomas was 17 when he was convicted of murder during a robbery in Oklahoma in 1986. His case was emblematic of the moral and legal complexities surrounding juvenile executions in America. Thomas spent years appealing his sentence, but on October 19, 2000, he was executed by lethal injection at the Oklahoma State Penitentiary. He was 32 years old. Although his last meal was not documented, his final words revealed a man seeking peace. "I'm at peace with God and myself." Thomas's story is a somber reminder of the challenges in balancing justice and compassion within the criminal justice system. Steve Edward Roach. Steve Edward Roach's life ended after being convicted of murder committed at 17 in South Carolina in 1984. His execution came at a time when the nation was re-examining juvenile capital punishment, making his case part of a significant legal turning point. Roach was executed by electrocution on November 12, 2004, at Broad River Correctional Institution. He was 37 years old. Details of his last meal and final words remain undisclosed, reflecting the quiet anonymity that often shrouds death row inmates. His execution remains one of the last juvenile capital punishments in the U.S., symbolizing a system in transition. Napoleon Beasley. Napoleon Beasley was convicted for a 1994 murder in Texas at age 17. His case ignited national outrage due to allegations of racial bias and prosecutorial misconduct. Many activists argued that Beasley's trial was unfair, and his execution sparked widespread protests. Despite the controversy, Beasley was executed by lethal injection on May 29, 2002, at the Huntsville unit. He was 25 years old. His last meal consisted of fried chicken, mashed potatoes, salad, and fruit juice. His final words expressed forgiveness and hope. "I have no hatred in my heart. May God bless my family and all those who knew me." Beasley's execution remains a powerful example of how race and justice intersect in the death penalty debate. Scott Allen Hayne. Scott Allen Hayne was 17 when he and an accomplice robbed and murdered two convenience store clerks in Oklahoma in 1988. His case became a landmark in juvenile justice because it was one of the last juvenile executions before the Supreme Court banned the death penalty for offenders under 18 in 2005. Hayne spent years fighting appeals, but was ultimately executed by lethal injection on April 3, 2003, at the Oklahoma State Penitentiary. He was 32 years old. His last meal was 2 cheeseburgers, French fries, and a vanilla milkshake. In his final moments, Hayne sought forgiveness. "I forgive those who have wronged me, and I ask for forgiveness from those I have wronged." His execution marked the end of an era and helped shape future juvenile justice reforms.